Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Lone Wolf. We're playing Book 9, The Cauldron of Fear, and we've just reached the city of Tahou. Now, some of the land we have travelled through was dangerous and occupied by foes. The armies of the Darklords have taken Aresa, Zilla, and I believe Lovka, and are pressing in on Tahou. The city is surrounded on 3 sides. Now, in order to lay siege to a city, or indeed any location, the attackers need to cover all available entrances and exits. They do not need to surround the city entirely if there are certain isolating geographical features. For example, if there is a ginormous cliff on one side of the city, then the base of that cliff does not need to be defended against potential escape, unless there's something like a lift that goes up and down, like a ski lift or something, that goes out, essentially. Traditionally, surrounding the city on all sides and attacking from all sides is the best way to divide the attention of the defenders so that they cannot estimate from where the next attack will come and keep them rushing about, being very busy. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is that refugees have fled the city of Tahou, heading south towards Nawasari. Nawasari has not fallen to the Darklords and their armies. However, just because they have not taken Nawasari does not mean the area to the south of the city is free from the armies and scouts of the Darklords. The general belief was that the city of Tahou would be besieged within 2 days. And this southern road probably comes from a southern gate. It is possible the road could reach the city walls and then travel all the way around to a eastern or western gate. Unlikely all the way to a northern gate. But from a city planning point of view, it would be easiest to simply have a gate in the southern wall if that road sees frequent travel, just so people can go directly, less tedium going round, arguing with each other, squabbling over who gets to go into the city and so on the side roads. And if the evil army is planning on cutting off all access here within 2 days, they're probably already moving into this area. Was it 2 weeks, possibly? I can't remember. However, I see something here, a couple of things actually. First off, raise the postern. I'm a little concerned. If it's large enough to be raised, it might not be small enough to be a postern gate. If it's directly next to the main gate, I see. However, the other thing is being questioned as to why we are entering the city. There is an evil army planning to lay siege to the city. Evil both literally and, provably, but also from a point of perspective of the civilians living here. We are strangers who have not been to this city before. We, us, me, right? You and me. Not Barnadon, we'll get to that. And so they don't know us. It would be very reasonable to assume we are an enemy spy coming in to open a postern gate and let in the evil army at some point, or something nasty like that, poison a well, or set fire to a grain store, perhaps, right? All sorts of things that typically would happen in sieges. Now, while we are not recognisable, Barnadon has been here a number of times before and dealt with respectable people in the city who he can name. Just because he's been here a lot of times, I'm not going to assume the gate guards will recognise him on sight, or that the authorities will particularly know him very well. But he will be able to say, I know this person, I know that person. Go ask them if I should be allowed in. And the guards might go, all right, well, let's not bother. If he knows this many people, then he's probably either a really good spy, in which case we'll send off a report to our superiors and they can check up on him and it's not our problem anymore. We just let him in. Or he's someone who's been here often enough before. Not just, especially if he can show proof. And, of course, we have our invitation. Tahou, an ancient stronghold containing a vast city, is a formidable and wondrous sight in the moonlight. The imposing walls and towers of red stone and grey rock assume the softening sheen of velvet, and the city is often referred to as the Velvet Fortress. Beyond the towers and high-curtained wall, you can see 1,000 spires and minarets grouped as thickly as the trees of a forest. Tiny lights twinkle in countless windows and portals, adding to the splendour of the mighty capital. Near to the city's south gate, the highway is flanked by beacons which illuminate those who approach the gatehouse. A drawbridge spans a moat of black water and, as you ride across, a bell tolls from the portcullis archway ahead. 2 civilian riders at the south gate, yells a soldierly voice. Raise the postern, shouts another. There is a clatter of chains and a scraping of stone. You watch the portcullis, expecting it to rise, but it does not move. Instead, a narrow portal opens at the base of the wall because it's a postern gate, exactly, and an armoured guard steps from the shadows. He motions for you to enter and you follow. He motions for you to enter and you follow Barnardon along a corridor of stone leading to a secure enclosure. You glance upwards to see the faces of a dozen soldiers peering down at you from behind a parapet that encircles the high enclosure walls. All of them grasp loaded crossbows, which they train on you as you move. Then a small gate creaks open and 2 guards appear, armed with broad-bladed spears. Who are you? One demands in a gruff tone. Why do you seek entry to Tahou? We do have an invitation, and we wish to show it. If we wished not to show it, we could tell the guards that we come to offer our services in the defence of the city. They might not believe it. They could say, we've got all the help we need, you can bugger off. This is actually another reason why the besieging armies should shut off all access, because they're not trying to stop people get out. They are also trying to stop people get in to aid the defenders. And then the third thing they're trying to do is gain access into the settlement themselves. We could say we intend to enter the Tahou Cauldron. I don't think that would go well. I don't think they would see this as a particularly high priority when they're trying to defend the city. We say we want to come in and they'll be like, oh, bugger off. You can come back later after the siege or something, or just bugger off and die in the wilds, attacked by the Darklords' armies, essentially. So we have an invitation. We could have completely avoided this invitation, but it's proved useful before. The guards inspect the invitation, their expressions conveying their doubt that the signature it bears is genuine. They order you to dismount, and one of them hurries off to summon the gatehouse commander. Fortunately, when he arrives, he recognises Lorfa's mark and allows you to leave the enclosure, although he impounds both your horses. Yeah, they could probably use them for the defence of the city, and our horse survived the journey. You protest and demand that they be returned, but to no avail. We don't need the horses now. We can walk in the city. I mean, the horses would help. When we leave the city, it may be another matter. Orders of the Senate, says the officer. Oh, orders of the Senate, says the officer offhandedly. An emergency decree. All horses belonging to the civil population must be delivered into the care of the garrison stables until the state of emergency is lifted. Which is actually not a bad idea, because if any spy attempts to leave the city and ride off to report to the Darklords' armies, firstly, if they are identified as a spy, the guards might wish to chase them down, provided the armies of the Darklords are not too close and it feels safe enough to do so. especially if they chase them down on horseback. And secondly, if they are on foot, any report they would make to the armies of the Darklords would be delayed, and slowing down that information, even if it cannot be prevented from arriving at all, is still vital to the survival of the city. Reluctantly, you allow the guards to take your steeds, and, as they are being led away, the commander hands you each a piece of vellum stamped with a date and a number. "Receipts," he explains, his tone noticeably more friendly. "Oh, receipts," he explains, his tone noticeably more friendly. You pocket your receipt, as owing to its size, you need not delete another special item should you already carry the maximum quota, and are about to walk away when he calls out, "Report to the Citadel first thing in the morning. You'll be allocated your battle positions for when the enemy attack." That might be a slight problem, but I'm not going to call this a receipt. I will call it a horse receipt, or receipt. Although by the time we get to the end of the book, I think that that'll be fairly redundant and won't matter much in the next one. Which is probably why they're not fussed about it taking up a space. This may be tricky. Are we expecting to venture into the Cauldron itself tonight and report there this morning, or fell? I seem to recall it's possible to become a hunted man in the city. Wanted man. The soldiers can be very hostile. We've been alright so far. Leaving your horses and the Southgate Tower behind, you enter a wide avenue flanked by workshops and houses, all built of red... Sorry, I ran out of breath there. You enter a wide avenue flanked by workshops and houses, all built of red stone or rock sheathed in red plaster. The buildings themselves are small and densely packed, yet each one, no matter how humble, has a spire or tower that soars into the sky, so the whole place looks like a ginormous hedgehog. The large, sleepy-eyed heads of stone dragons gaze down from the balconies of minarets, crowned either with bulbous, onion-shaped domes of copper, or with platforms housing engines of war recently installed. Barnardon points to an eating house and suggests that you stop there for some refreshment. Chiban's house is more than an hour's walk from here, and you are ravenous after your long ride. We can ignore a rumbling stomach and continue on to Chiban's house, or pay attention to our companion, who knows the place better than we do. Now, in the previous book, there were some instances where Paido would make bad judgment calls, warning us against pickpockets and then possibly being robbed. Or was that Barnardon in book 4? However, Barnardon was also a canny businessman who could rig a game of cards or some other gambling to his favour, and not easily conned, I think, so we will enter the eating house. This will also give us a good feel for the mood of the local populace. The eating house is crowded with soldiers. They sit at benches drawn up to long oak tables, or sprawl around a log fire that crackles in a broad stone grate. Your entrance causes them to pause in their noisy conversations as they look you up and down. However, their curiosity is soon satisfied, and they return to their feasting and boasting. "This way, gentlemen," beckons the owner and leads you through the crowd to a table in the corner of the high-ceilinged room. Barnardon hands him a clutch of silver loon, and the jolly red-cheeked man waddles away to fetch you food and ale. The soldiers are dressed in a variety of uniforms, many of which you recognise to be the tunics of mercenary regiments from the Stormlands. 2 of these soldiers of fortune share your table. They talk in hushed tones and cast nervous glances at another group of men sitting near the fire. Well, we could talk to the soldiers, or just say nothing while we wait for our food. Well, we don't have an opportunity to go talk to the men at the fire, so we can at least find out what the soldiers are concerned about. The men are plainly displeased that you have interrupted their conversation. One of them, A sallow-faced knave with dark eyes and curly black hair snatches a jug from the table and takes a long swig. He slams it down hard and turns to his friend. "Did you know," he says, red wine squirting through his rotted teeth, "my brother Gain was killed in Raggadorn last year. He was stabbed in the back by a lousy Northlander." Slowly he turns his head and stares coldly into your eyes. "I hate Northlanders," he snarls. "They're all cowardly backstabbing scum." You notice his hand leave the jug and slip below the table. We can tell him we're sorry to hear what happened to his brother. It certainly wasn't us. It's been longer than a year since we were in the Stormlands. Prepare for combat just in case, or decide it'd be wise to leave the eating house. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. If he attacks us, one of us could get hurt. And he is a warrior who could aid in the defense of the city. Yeah, let's leave. They might attack us if we get up to go, but that's a risk we'll have to take. "Look out, lone wolf!" shouts Barnardon as you are rising from your seat. The soldier has drawn a curved dagger and he lunges forward to stab at your heart, but we have the discipline of divination. Do we have hunt mastery? I don't think so, actually. But we only needed one. Your Kai mastery alerts you to the attack and you resist it with breathtaking speed. In one swift motion you unsheath your weapon and lash out at your attacker, shearing off his arm at the elbow. That would have been very impressive if we had a blunt weapon. If we used our mace. I think we used our sword for this, obviously. Shaken by what he has seen, his comrade kicks back his bench and retreats from the table. However, the drunken crowd goad him to retaliate and their jibes sting him into action. He pulls his blade free of its scabbard and leaps forward to attack. He has a combat skill of 15 and an endurance of 26 and is drunk. I think I would like to evade combat. I think I would like to remind myself how to do that. If I stay and win the fight, I could get arrested. If I flee the scene, I could also get arrested and be a wanted man. Okay. Rules for combat. I think it's just a round of combat in which we cannot deal damage. If you're already engaging in a round of combat... Can't get right. Yeah, so we don't hurt the enemy. And then we escape. Got it. So he has a combat skill of 15. We are fighting at 26, which is plus 11. That's pretty damn good. I feel that not sticking around to be questioned by the guards is a good idea here, and we probably shouldn't have come in here in the first place. 1d10. Plus 11, column a 9. If we'd stayed, he would be dead. Instead, we're getting the bleep out of here. At high velocity. You give a hefty kick and send a bench whirling against the man's legs. He falls heavily, slamming his head against the table and knocking himself out. The watching crowd find this greatly amusing, and while they are helpless with laughter, you escape through the door and along the street, hopefully not to be pursued by the authorities very quickly. Soon you arrive at a part of the city that Barnardon remembers well. It borders a large public garden called the Rainbow Park, so named because of the vast number of rare and colourful flowers that grow there. The park is now an encampment for those who have answered the President's desperate call for defenders. Survivors from the towns of Ressa and Zilla have joined forces of the green-clad Daroga woodsmen, tough hill-dwellers from the Char mountain valley, and riverfolk from the Churdas, forming regiments to reinforce the Tahou garrison. Their battle-stained banners, lit by the flickering glow of 100 campfires, flutter above the tents that fill the great park. This might initially give a sense of a bunch of mercenary companies, but actually no. They are survivors. I wouldn't quite call them refugees, but those who have escaped and all fled to the city to aid in its defence and also for their own survival. Opposite the entrance stands the Guildhall of Tailors, who are probably doing a roaring job fitting people with uniforms if they want to make extra sure that they are distinctive members of their units. And, mending garments that have been damaged on the road and so on, right? You turn into an avenue running beside this imposing hall and then cross into the North District by means of alleys and side streets, and finally emerge at Leech Street, just opposite the house of Chiban the Magician. His is a grand building of polished red stone set with small diamond-paned windows that twinkle like cat's eyes in the moonlight. You pass beneath its arched gateway and climb the magnificent tiled steps that lead to a black oak door. Barnardon raps the knocker and you wait patiently for it to open. Now, I recall an image of someone who is probably Chiban the Magician welcoming us into a house and Barnardon meeting us there with him, which would mean we are separated from Barnardon at some point. This has not happened yet. That image could be if we had to flee the authorities in the city somehow and ended up here on our own, or it could be another building we go to later. I also remember there's a very important meeting with a merchant who has a powerful magical gem, although it's lone wolf, so the magic is psychic, and our discipline of Psyscreen would protect us from his mental dominance. There may be something positive we can get from that encounter. I can't remember. I don't think it's the gem. Minutes later, the door swings aside, and the aristocratic figure of Chiban stands framed in the doorway. Keen-eyed and grey-haired, he welcomes you both with surprise and delight. "Barnardon!" he exclaims, like a father reunited with a long-lost son. "How good it is to see you! But what brings you to Tahou in this darkest of hours? Have you come to offer your skills in the defence of our beleaguered city?" "My services are yours to command, my lord Chiban," answers Barnardon, bowing respectfully to his former mentor. "Yet also I return to your esteemed household, to seek your help at the behest of King Ulnar of Sommerlund. May I introduce my companion, Lone Wolf?" Chiban turns his kindly gaze on you and smiles knowingly. "I am honoured to meet you, Kylord," he says. "I have knowledge of that which you seek, and shall aid you all I can in your search for it." He beckons you to enter, and the door closes behind you, seemingly of its own accord. He is a magician after all. You follow Chiban to his study. The musty room is lined with massive wooden racks full of books and papers. At its centre, a large circular table is completely covered with the implements of his magical researches. He clears a space amid the clutter and motions you to sit. "You must both be famished after your journey here. Come, eat and enjoy." For a few seconds, a shimmering pool of light fills the space and then fades, leaving a sumptuous meal of grilled trout, baked potatoes, hake root, and sparkling Anarian wine. If you have lost any endurance points on this adventure so far, you may now restore 3 points as you consume this delicious meal. We have not actually taken any damage in this adventure. This is a flagrant display of power. Up to this point, the series has presented a fairly low magic world. And we remind ourselves that low magic doesn't mean the magic is low in power, but low in frequency. Hard to find, rare. A high magic world would be something like the Forgotten Realms, where every barkeeper and his son has a +1 sword and has saved the world at least twice, right? There are ridiculous amounts of magic items in the Forgotten Realms. It is silly. We have come across a great number of magic items, but they have been spread out over the course of many locations and many adventures. We are now on our 9th adventure in the series. In the Fighting Fantasy books, the feel is a medium to sometimes high magic world, where magic can be quite frequently encountered on adventures, but because we are the adventuring hero, we don't necessarily make much use of it ourselves. We encounter it, it's nice we find useful utility type magic items, which are generally an item check. Do you have this item to be able to continue successfully in the adventure, sort of thing. In the Lone Wolf series, we have less magic items in each individual adventure, but obviously it can feel like a lot more. And when we do come across magical power, it's often quite tame. And controlled, not wasteful, or extremely devastating. But we can go entire adventures with very little. In this, for example, the magical potions are less magical potions and more alchemical in nature. Anyway. When you have finished your meal, you talk at length about your journey from Dessi and your quest for the Lorestone of Tahou. Chiban produces a map of the city, which he unfurls on the floor of his study, the only surface not cluttered with magical equipment. With his toe, he points at the location of the Tahou Cauldron. It is in the Square of the Dragons, in the west district of the city. The Cauldron is a funnel-shaped hollow with a circular shaft at its base. The shaft descends to the ruins of the ancient city of Zarix, 500 feet below the streets of Tahou. Legend tells us that the Lorestone was thrown into the cauldron to prevent the Black Zakan of Vassagonia from capturing it during the Great Cauldron War. The shaft was closed off and has remained sealed for the past 360 years. He looks up from the map, and you notice that his smiling features are now sad and composed. At dawn, the armies of Darklord Gnaag will be at the gates of the city, and the Battle of Tahou will have begun. My duty is here, in the defence of my beloved city. Otherwise, I would willingly accompany you on your search. There is only one man who can help you now, for he is the only one that can grant you access to the shaft that descends to Zarix. He is President Tolchuda of Anari. Come, I will arrange an audience with him immediately. That's promising. With a casual wave of his hand, Chiban conjures up a quill and a sheet of parchment. He's really showing off. If he can afford to use this much concentration and magical energy before the battle begins, then he must be confident in his ability to concentrate and control and alter reality. He begins to dictate the request for an audience, and the quill moves of its own accord, as if guided by an invisible hand. The request, once completed, is then dispatched by messenger to the Anarium, the House of the Senate, where members of the Governing Council are gathered for an emergency assembly called for by the President himself. Within the hour, the messenger returns with a scroll bearing the presidential seal. "He has agreed to hear your plea, Lone Wolf," says the aged magician, his ice-blue eyes scanning the official reply. "Barnadon congratulates you, and you feel your spirits rise, but Chiban seems a little disappointed. I was expecting a private audience," he says, "but in view of the current situation, I suppose it is the best we can hope for. You must appear before the Senate this evening and state your reasons for wishing to enter the Tahou Cauldron. They will consider your request and vote accordingly. If they grant their approval, only you may enter. If they forbid your entry, you may not appeal against it. Their decision will be final." He hands you the scroll and arranges for his personal coach to take you to the Anarium. As you climb into the passenger seat, he and Barnadon wish you good luck. "I shall pray for your success," says Chiban, "and I shall pray that we are still alive to see you your triumphant return." Oh, shit, I'll redo that whole paragraph. He hands you the scroll and arranges for his personal coach to take you to the Anarium. As you climb into the passenger seat, he and Barnadon wish you good luck. "I shall pray for your success," says Chiban. "And I shall pray that we are still alive to see your triumphant return, old friend," says Barnadon as you exchange a farewell wave. This, then, must be the separation. It must be upon our return. But I don't think it's to this location. I think it's another house where they both meet us, and we're like, surprise, you didn't expect to meet us here. And we have a picture of the council in motion. Excellent. The great flagstoned precinct at the entrance to the Anarium is packed with hundreds of people. Seated officials, soldiers, and citizens crowd the steps that give access to the grand foyer and outer chambers of the hall. You notice that a side entrance is being used exclusively by army scouts who arrive with dispatches and leave with orders for the lookouts hidden in the surrounding hills. You take a calculated gamble and order the carriage driver to draw up at the side entrance. This bold move pays off. Upon seeing your presidential scroll, not only do the guards allow you into the Anarium, but you are escorted to the appellant's gallery inside the assembly hall itself. From your seat in the gallery you stare down at an oval hall ringed with 12 arches, beneath which the senators of Anari sit upon their throne-like chairs of lacquered oak. President Toltuda occupies a seat in the centre of the hall and presides over a heated discussion that is raging back and forth. Having heard all sides of the argument, he calls for a vote, and the issue is decided by a show of hands. We now come to a quite extraordinary matter which has been raised by one of our most eminent citizens, says President Toltuda, introducing your appeal to the Senate. He turns to the gallery and calls out, "Some lending lord, Lone Wolf, please make yourself known to the assembly." You rise from your seat and bow to the senators. "Please present your request to us, Lone Wolf," says the president, and a hush descends on the hall as you explain the purpose of your journey to Tahou. When you have finished, the president calls upon the senators to speak. "I say we should help the some lending," pipes the shrill voice of Senator Zilaris. "If he finds the Lorestone, its power could turn the tide and save Tahou from the clutches of Darklord Gnaag." A murmur of agreement stirs in the hall. "And I say we should refuse to open the Cauldron," booms the powerful voice of Senator Chill. "I say that if it were not for his presence in our city, we would be spared the attention of the Darklords. He is the object of their anger and spite. I say we should give him to them, and in doing so we will save our city, our country, our people, and ourselves." A surge of support echoes from the arches, and your skin prickles at the thought of what could happen. President Toltuda calls for a vote to decide whether the Senate should allow you to enter the Cauldron, or use you to bargain for peace with the Darklords. Tensely you await the result. The votes are cast and counted, and the Senate is split evenly. 6 votes for you, and 6 against. The decision now rests with the President himself. He must cast the deciding vote. And it's a 50-50 dice roll. Reminder that in this series, we're going old school. The 10 is a 0. We have rolled an 8. I don't know if that's good or bad. A bronze beacon, the Anarian symbol of law and order, is fixed into a plinth of marble that stands beside the President's chair. He moves his finger to a button on the arm of the chair, and all eyes turn to stare at the beacon. There is a flash of ignition, and a jet of red flame roars upwards towards the domed ceiling. "Seize him!" shouts Senator Chill. "Seize Lone Wolf!" The President has voted against you, and now the Senate guards are closing in on all sides to arrest you. In a single bound, you leave your seat and sprint along the gallery towards an empty staircase. To your right, a guard is rushing to intercept your escape. He is unarmed, and he has a net with which he hopes to ensnare you. He casts it as you are about to descend the stairs. Pick a random number. Huntmaster would add 1. Law Circle of Fire would add 2. We have neither. Great. We do, however, get a 9. Now, I distinctly think this high failure, low success, was to catch cheaters. I don't think it was randomly chosen. Some cheaters always pick the highest roll because they think it's always the best, especially if there are modifiers that add to it. And they might not have remembered the previous section they were at. Hey, we got unlucky. This time, a little bit lucky. You flatten yourself against the floor and the net passes harmlessly over your head. Before the guards can react, you are back on your feet and running headlong down the stairs. 3 soldiers await you at the bottom of the staircase. They clutch wooden staves in their sweaty hands, ready to beat you senseless the moment you appear. "Get him!" they shout, and run forwards, clumsy and flat-footed compared to your cat-like strides. Before they can land a blow, you leap among them, striking left and right too quickly for their eyes to follow. They scream and clutch at their wounds as you make your getaway unharmed, and are completely fucked. Basically. You run from the staircase as quickly as you can and follow a corridor, not a council. The council has already turned against us. Let's try again. You run from the staircase as quickly as you can and follow a corridor that heads towards the front of the Anarium. In the distance you can see an entrance hall teeming with people and 2 soldiers, both armed with halberds, standing on guard with their backs towards you. To your left there is a window, and you look through and see your carriage parked close to the side of the building. If we go through the window, I don't think we should get in the carriage. Also, Shiban the magician may now be in trouble for aiding us. If we try and escape along the corridor, the guards are there. Big crowd. I think we go through the window. The window is bolted shut. If you're determined to escape this way, you will have to take the risk of jumping through a pane of thick glass. We're on full health. Let's do it. You raise your hood and wrap yourself in your Kai cloak to minimize the risk of being cut by broken glass. Leaping feet first, you escape through the window, but with only a few minor scratches lose 1 endurance point, which we will regain in the next section due to our curing discipline if it is not a combat one. But the glass shatters with such a terrific crash that it alerts the soldiers on guard at the side door. They surround the carriage and arrest the driver, forcing you to abandon your hopes of escaping that way. I had no plans of getting in the carriage anyway. I just wanted to not go out through the main door. Using the cover afforded by the crowds, you escape across the precinct that surrounds the Senate House and enter a labyrinth of passages that disappear into a neighbourhood known as the Parish of Thieves. However, your escape has not gone completely unnoticed. From the tower of the Anarium, a captain of the Senate Guard has been watching your getaway through his telescope and has dispatched a troop of his best men to track you down. On the corner of a dark alley, you hear the sound of drunken laughter floating up from the battered door of an ale cellar. You turn away, but the sudden tramp of boots' feet echoing along the passage behind you makes you change your mind. Quickly, you descend the steps and take shelter in this lowly tavern to hide among the crowd. This is where we check camouflage is new name, like invisibility or something, isn't it? We don't have it yet. Okay. The cellar is full of rough-faced villains, laughing and bragging about their illegal exploits as they swill their sour ale, which means when the guards come in, they're all going to think the guards are coming for them, and there'll be a bit of a hullabaloo, which might cover the fact that we don't belong here. You cross the crowded floor and sit at the end of a table as far away from the door as possible. A thin, wiry fellow with curly black hair approaches you with a tankard of foaming ale in one hand. You have taken his seat, and he is determined to get it back. We have not escaped from the Southgate Tower, which is crucial here, so maybe he won't recognise us. "Find somewhere else to sit, stranger. This place is mine," he demands, grasping the hilt of his dagger with his free hand. You sense movement outside in the street, and you glance nervously at the cellar door. "Get up!" growls a man, impatiently drawing his dagger slowly from its sheath. "If you dare cross Sog of Suentina, you'll not live long enough to regret it." At that instant, the door bursts open and in rush 6 heavily armed Senate guards, and the guy might point at me and go, "There's the bastard. He's sitting in my seat just to get rid of me." Heavily armed Senate House guards, so not just normal guards. Thinking that the ale cellar is being raided, something of a routine event here at the Purple Purse, the shady patrons drop their drinks and flee towards the open door in an attempt to escape arrest. Sog, the thief who threatens you, heads towards a shadowy arch. You run after him and grab him by the arm. "Get me out of here," you plead. "You can name your price." The wily thief smiles at the thought of making some easy money and holds out his hand. "Give me your money pouch and I'll save your skin." Grudgingly, you hand over your gold and follow the thief into the archway. Delete any gold crowns or loons you have recorded in the belt pouch section of your action sheet. In all honesty, we're not likely to need them anytime soon. Amid chaos and confusion, you leave the ale cellar through a concealed door in the wall of the arch. It opens onto a sloping passage that descends to a tunnel lit by oil-soaked torches fixed at random along the tiled walls. A foul smell assails your nostrils, the unmistakable stench of an underground sewer. You follow Sog along a narrow ledge that runs parallel to a sluggish sewage channel, taking care not to slip on the slime-encrusted tiles. After a few minutes, he halts beneath one of the sputtering torches and presses its rusty iron bracket. There is a grating rumble and a section of the tunnel wall opens to reveal an amazing sight. It's the man with the gem! We are here! Before you lies a huge chamber. Its walls are hung with silk and fine tapestries, and its sunken floor is piled high with glittering treasures. As you enter, a perfumed breeze ruffles your hair and the sound of songbirds fills your ears. Sog leads you past a bubbling pool of crystal-clear water into an antechamber. Here, lying on a couch of vivid scarlet, rests the ruler of this sanctuary, dressed in an extravagant costume of many colours. His large, squarish face is framed by a hood trimmed with a strange purple fur. He stirs from his slumber and opens his coal-black eyes.
"Sog? Who is this man?"
he shouts angrily.
"Why have you brought him here?"
The thief tries to offer an explanation, but it only serves to anger him even more.
"Sog, you snivelling fool," he bellows. "You know it is forbidden to bring outsiders into the secret enclaves of the guild. I should have you flogged for your stupidity. For all we know, this Northlander could be a spy, or even—"
He pauses, staring up at you fearfully.
"An assassin!"
He snatches a gem from his pocket and holds it in the air.
"Caddul dana li uk,"
he breathes, and a vivid green flame engulfs the sparkling jewel. That looks suspiciously like Gnaag. I should blatantly check. So, Gnaag uses a subject-verb-object structure. So we're looking for Z. Oh, no, of course. Caddul. It would be great if it's not, but we have clag, ka, but conjunctive. That would not come first. We have cag. We have a con. Kagaz, no. Cog. Wait. Con. Not two cogs. Got it. Kez. Cor. Cluz. Cot. Conna. Ka. Y. Caddul could still be part of it if the extra D is sort of a bastardization, a sort of glottal, anti-glottal over separation. Okay. Dul. Do we have a dul? I think done. I think we can fairly safely say this is not Gnaag then. So Caddul, Dana, Liuk. They're all hyphenated in pairs, right? Lee Ook. Let's see if there's a Lee or Ook. Okay. I don't think we even need to look for Danar then. We do have the discipline of size screen. Without it, I think he robs us of like everything we got, essentially. Pulses of psychic energy leap from the gem, washing over you in waves that leave you shaking and breathless. Your size screen protects your nervous system, but you are unable to stop the pulses from penetrating deep into your mind. The man commands you to reveal the reason you are here. Steadily, he increases the force of his mind gem until you can no longer resist. Interesting. I seem to remember that resisting was very useful. See, I seem to remember him being a merchant, and he would command us to give him every... So, 64. Not 64. So, if we just want to do a quick... Okay, it's damage before. Alright. The man smiles smugly as you recount everything about yourself and your quest for the Lorestone, and your ordeal at the Senate House. When finally you reach the end of your account, he gives you a long... He gives vent to a long, sardonic laugh. Ha 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 ha! Sorry, my throat's really dry. Sardonic, it's kind of stilted, sarcastic. It's like... I, Morgana, the Grand Guildmaster of Thieves, in all the years I have dwelt beneath the Velvet Fortress, I have dispatched many men to the Tahou Cauldron to seek out ancient treasures, though few have gone willingly, and fewer still have returned alive. Know this, Somlending. The Cauldron is but one way to enter the main shaft to Zarix. There are other routes, other shafts, and all of them are known to me. I will show you one such shaft, but you must do something in return. Is it agreed? Cautiously, you ask his terms. My son, Aibek, entered the shaft 3 moons ago, drawn by the stories of Dragon Gold. He has not returned. All I ask is that if you find his body, you bring me the ring he wears on his right hand. Without hesitation, you agree to these terms, for they seem most reasonable. Is it a cursed ring? He smiles, but this time his eyes glow with a strange intensity, as if he were a man on the brink of madness. Do not fail me, he says softly, holding aloft the sparkling mind gem. I shall know if you lie. Right. If we find Aibek's corpse, bring the ring on his... If he's wearing rings on both hands, the right hand was specified. I'm not sure we're going to get to come back this way, and he might try and rob us on our return. And we might not find his body, although not finding the body could be... finding the body might be on the correct path, essentially. Morgana leads you to another room, one of the several that lead from his sumptuous chamber, and approaches a dais standing near the door. He passes his hand over a crystal set into its surface, and at once a section of the wall moves inwards, exposing darkness beyond. An icy damp wind fills the room, carrying with it a cloying smell of decay. Elsewhere in the chamber are tables laden with equipment, placed here no doubt for those who dare venture beyond the windswept portal. Take what you need, says Morgana, his voice barely audible above the howl of the wind. Then go. He ushers Sog from the chamber and locks the door behind him. We can examine the equipment. I don't think he's going to stab us in the back before we examine it. And let's look. You sift through the items heaped on the tables and disentangle the following, which could be useful. A dagger, enough food for 3 meals. We have enough food for 1 meal already. Some rope. We have rope. A flask of water. Now, that may be very useful. Actually, that could be really useful now that I'm thinking of something. In book 8 or book 9, there's something in a really... I think there's a sort of place with steam rising from vents in the floor, and monsters who are sitting enjoying the steam, just sort of enjoying the warmth of the steam. Having water in that sort of area might be useful. A tinderbox, a bow, 3 arrows, a blanket, and a spear. Well, I'm actually going to leave the tincture of oxidine behind. Your pulse quickens as you step into the black abyss beyond the portal. You can make out no walls or roof, and the hollow wind that whistles in the darkness makes it easy to imagine that you are staring into a limitless void. There is a rope ladder fixed to the threshold of the portal. It descends into the darkness below. Now, I suspect this may be a good point to end the episode narratively. Not so sure about episode length. Would have been nice if the council had voted in favour, but hey, they didn't. Yeah, I'm going to end this episode here, and we'll pick it up next time. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next time, where I won't have such a dry throat. I'll say goodbye for now, though, and cheerio, everyone. See you all soon, and remember, for Sommerlund and the Kai.